Well, Troy, thanks so much for joining us, man. As I mentioned to you, we are in this season of just having lots of conversations with youth pastors, youth workers of all kinds, and honestly, parents and anyone else who just cares about teenagers and service experiences around this core question of how do you find a path forward in this season. And so our hope for these conversations is just that we give space for youth pastors like you to just kind of share how you're doing it and how you've found a way, how you've planned both for the immediate, but also for the future. So before we get into all of that, I'd love for you to share a little bit of your background, what your ministry is like, and then we'll get into kind of how COVID has impacted you.
Sure. Yeah. Well, hi, I'm Troy. But I've been at my church. I'm in a suburb of Indianapolis. Been there 17 years working with high school students. And I think you hit it right. Like ministry right now is some days it's just a question mark of what's tomorrow? What's it going to be? So, but we've been working through it. Ministry doesn't stop. Jesus doesn't stop. I mean, we're just trying our best to get students connected to Jesus any way we can in the midst of everything.
Yeah, man. And you shared a little bit with me about how COVID has impacted your ministry specifically, which I think a lot of times we're planning for some sort of worst case scenarios and hopefully we never hit it. You kind of hit some of it in your own ministry. So if you wouldn't mind sharing a little bit of that.
No, of course not. So COVID in our community, church community and our town has hit pretty hard. We are currently at the moment the only school system that is 100% digital in our area. So everyone is at home. No one is at school at all. They're just starting to open hopefully next week, K through 4. But yeah, all our kids, all our students are 100% at home in front of a laptop all day doing Zoom classes. And then our church, personally, our church, we got hit. We started worship. We had all the protocols in place and kept everyone safe, which was great. And then unfortunately, during the week, someone on staff got COVID and it spread through our staff. And so our senior pastor has just started to return to work. He was out about a month. Our associate pastor was out for a while. My father-in-law works at the church and he was hit as well. He was in the hospital on a respirator. He's home now. Thankfully, he's doing well. But it seems to have run its course, but you never know. That's the problem. And so everyone's doing better, which is great. But when it hits the leadership and it hits people heavily involved, that's when the entire church takes a step back and goes, whoa, we got to slow down. And so we're all very much in a pause mode. We're kind of playing week to week on a lot of things we do. Even when this all started, I didn't tell you the story. So when this all started, I mean, no one knew this was coming. It was a surprise. And I was actually having surgery the day they closed school. So I went under and I woke up to school's done. So we don't know when. I was like, oh, great. So, and I mean, like I had Sunday planned and we were ready to go. And it's like, all right, I don't know what we're doing. And so it was a lot of scrambling ministry wise to be like, we got to get a video camera in the youth room. We got to figure out YouTube. We got to get all this like working now. Cause I mean, like, I'm sure you've talked to everyone. No one expected that. No one had it ready to go just in case. So it's been a lot of fun. Yeah.
Yeah. So in all of this stuff, what do you feel like has worked really, really well for your ministry right now? And no matter how small it is, what do you feel like are some of the, if you want to call them wins or just the like good moments you've had?
Well, one of the hardest things about what we do, we're very experiential in what we do for something that's like, we don't want to just say a lesson to you and tell you to go. We want to give you things to do, decompress, discuss, things like that. And those are all things that are like impossible to do now.
Sure.
That's been really hard. Yeah. But the interesting thing is we had a conversation with another guy in town who I know, and his church was digital at the time and all online. And I said, he just had a baby. I said, so when are you guys going back? He said, oh, we're not. And he said, but we can get everything we want from church online. And we got deeper into conversation, started thinking, what are you getting from church if you can get everything online? what else are you offering other than a video, just a live video? Like
Sure.
what are you doing? So we've really thought about how we understand the season. We've kind of to pull back and change how we do, but we really want to get kids experiencing Jesus as much as we can, because that's a majority of what's missing. Everyone's just watching church. I mean, let's be honest. No one's singing along with the worship Sunday morning. You're listening, but no one's in their bedroom, top of their lungs, praise Jesus. It's not, those sort of things are missing. So we're live at the moment in the parking lot. As long as we've got good weather, we've been great. Jesus has liked us the last few weeks. So we're doing good right now, but we're trying to get things that we can do with the kids together in the parking lot. Like, okay, what experiences can we create? Like, they show up a lot of times and like, here's your little brown paper bag of stuff, because we're going to do things today, not just me up front talking through a microphone across the parking lot. So
that's good, man. Yeah. So when you imagine how you can live in both worlds from a planning perspective of ministry, of like thinking about 10 to 12 months from now at the same time as thinking about what's happening this Sunday or next week, and how you might have to have a plan A, B, C, and maybe D for all of that. Some of our youth workers really struggle to like hold both of those in tension, and rightfully so. Like, I feel like it's different for everybody in every situation and all the other things that they're carrying. So I don't think it's right or wrong. I'm excited for folks to hear from people who have found a way to kind of hold both of those, however loosely, to kind of hold both of those to find a path forward. So if you could share just from your perspective and your team's perspective of like how you've been able to pick a mission trip next summer already, while at the same time like thinking about all the logistics and worst case, best case scenarios for this week.
Yeah. Well, the nice thing about the way we plan, so I'll be honest, when I started ministry, I was not a huge planner. It was kind of like, do the newsletter, let's get it out, focus on that, next thing. Yeah. But the church I'm at now, when they built their family life center, they built a gym and all this stuff. They said, we want to be available to the community. So we have a lot of people who come in and use our gym. We have a lot of support groups that come into our church. Well, I had to learn really quickly how to book things and plan ahead, or else I just didn't get it.
Sure.
Like, the youth room is built onto the gym, which sounds great, but when there's 47 basketballs, I can't have a it doesn't work. So I had to figure out quickly how to plan and stuff like that. And then with our community, we just have people who planned ahead so far that I had to keep ahead of them. So we've learned to a lot of the bigger stuff, like let's say the mission trip.
Yeah.
It's going to be the same week every year. We try to keep the consistency. We change where we go. We have like a broad plan of where we want to go every 4 or 5 years. Cause when you, if you come to all the mission trips, junior high and senior high with us, that's 7 mission trips.
Right.
Realistically, 7 through 12. I don't want you to go on 7 identical mission trips. So we try and plan out like, okay, in that time, you should go to 1 Indian reservation, 1 urban, 1 small village, 1 close to international as we can type thing. So we have a broad variety that we know is coming. So like planning next year's mission trip, I knew what we were going to do before all this hit.
Sure.
Just because it followed the plan that we had.
Yeah.
So that's helped. And I mean, realistically, it's weird to think about. I'm like, I'm planning for something. I mean, I don't know if I'm going to be on a mission trip in 4 years, but I know that these kids, if they're in high school, this is what we want them to experience. So we have a loose grip of this is kind of what we want them to get in the next couple of years. For stuff like that, big stuff is way easier to do with stuff like that. It's the small Sunday to Sunday stuff that's more just keeps coming every week. And it's like, what am I doing this week? What am I doing this week? And
yeah,
you mentioned some churches talk about core values. I mean, we do the same thing. We have some core values we hold on to. And so we know that every semester we kind of try and have one that's going to be the focus.
Yeah.
So I know we're talking about this in some sort of way.
Sure.
That makes it a little easier than I just have to come up with something. So I can come up with something that might work in our youth room. It might work in a parking lot. It might work virtual. I still like an idea of something that's going to go on. And that helps. I've got like a loose plan that might go nowhere. Let's do it that way. It's really what it is, but that's how it goes.
Yeah. Well, I mean, the thing that, and I mentioned this to you earlier, but the thing that I'm constantly reminded of in this season is how COVID is a reminder of the facade of control we believe that we have and that we operate in, right? And I think that's why it's so important that you mentioned, right, the values that you anchor things to, because that way, if you have a value for gathering students in small groups so that they can have that one-to-one connection, you can make sure that nothing else you do jeopardizes that, right? And the same thing with service experiences that we help churches plan and facilitate is if you have a value of utilizing service experiences within the discipleship of your teenagers, we can build a structure, a system, a process in the safest way possible, planning for all the worst case scenarios. But if everything falls through, right, that doesn't mean that experience is any potentially it just means it needs to shift, right? Like around the value to like maintain that value of service. It just will look different. And so that's where I feel like that tension is just so hard right now for everybody. Is it's a constant drawback to when things change. Are we really doing and living out our values first? Knowing that the iteration we take is just the logical path that we create towards that embodiment. All that to say, though, you've got fall ministry too, right? You've got ministry right now. So what does fall ministry look like for you, as best as you can tell from today?
Yeah, that's a good guess. I mean, who knows? I mean, well, I'll back up with something you said, like the core values. So serving is one of them for us. We before all this hit, we have a food pantry at our church. Students would shop every single week for the food pantry as a reminder, helping out, stuff like that. And service has probably been the hardest one hit because it's the thing you can't do that online at home on Zoom.
Right.
There's nothing you can do. And even our own food pantry, like all the adults that would help out, well, all the ones that are in that older category or autoimmune stuff, they can't show up. How we have people do it is, so serving has been probably the hardest one to try and figure out.
Sure.
I can't take kids to Walmart. I just can't. I'm not allowed. Put them all on a bus and go to Walmart. That breaks so many foot rules. There's no way. But the nice thing is because it's a value and because it's something we want, other people are trying to help us. So we've got someone right now who does a meal packing for those little rice bags that you make stew with and stuff like that. And they have all their protocols in place. And he's like, I need people to serve. I'm like, I need to serve. So we're trying to get stuff like that lined up. And it's different. That's the hard part to understand. It's just, it's different. And being upset isn't going to change it. We have a lot of students that are upset about stuff that's going on in their lives. And I get it. I totally do. And I don't want to disregard their pain. But at the same point, I'm like, but I can't fix it. So let's figure out something else. Let's do what we can to move forward. And so that's kind of like the fall. I mean, right now, like I said, we're meeting in the parking lot. I'm in Indiana. That ain't going to last forever. That's coming to a close. So we've got to figure out what else can we do. And we're working on new plans. And some days it's treading water, but eventually you got to start swimming. And that's what we're trying to do as much as we can and plan ahead. And one thing we've talked with our church about is I can follow a bad plan rather than no plan. That's the hard thing right now.
Sure.
Even a plan I don't agree with. And so we were for a long time figuring out every week we get a different update from our city, what's changing, what's not, what's allowed, and we were holding on it so much. And we finally got to the point where in staff, a whole bunch of us were like, listen, I can't plan on a week to week, nothing. But you can say the church is closed for 2 months and at least I can plan with that.
Right. Yeah.
So we've kind of gone hardcore to no in a way, we can't do these things, but then that allows the rest of us to go, okay, then let's come up with a new idea rather than waiting to see if that old idea can happen.
Right.
So that's been a lot of what we're doing.
That's really, really good. And that discipline to sort of release those old ideas and those expectations to kind of cut the loss of it. That's going to be hard.
Oh, we had a fantastic Friday night fun night plan, it's still in the box. Like I can't even open
Oh
it
yeah.
because we can't do it. Like it's paid for and ready to go, and we're like, oh, but
Oh,
what do you do? Like, I mean, I can't do it. So it's going to sit in a box until we can do it. That's
yeah.
just all there is. So I've got to come up with something else fun to do.
Yeah. Oh my goodness, man. Well, in kind of the last couple of minutes, is there like a final bit of encouragement or just something that maybe I didn't even think to ask you about that you would want to share with other youth workers?
Well, I know for us, we have a network and we talk all the time. So we met yesterday over Zoom because, but we're all in the same boat. Like, it's not like we might be having different wins and different losses and different things we're focusing on, but no one was ready for this. I think you said that, like, no one was ready for this. So it hit everybody and everyone's still trying to figure things out. And the biggest thing right now is our students, they just need to know that Jesus loves them and we love them. That's really it. And I think that's kind of been the focus that's bubbled up in all this, is that, like we have all these programs and stuff like that. Not that they're bad. They are.
Right.
I mean, they're good, but the program isn't what it's all about. And like I said, I got the fun night in a box. That's not my focus or my value. My focus is for the kids to get together. Okay, so we can't do it with the box. Toss the box. We just need to figure out another way to get kids together. And so we're still trying to reach out. We're trying to get adults to understand, students need support. They need love. We've got all these students their life is in question right now. And we're like, that's okay. You're allowed to be pissed off with this right now.
Yeah.
That's okay.
Yeah.
So we've kind of pulled back a little bit. We're not pushing hard. We're not like, you need to be at church or else, type mentality. It's like, if you can't make it, we get it. So just, what can we do to help you? What can we do to support you? We're realizing there's some long-term changes that are coming. Like I said, you got to start swimming at some point. And so we've realized, this whole idea of being on video and stuff, like we weren't on video at all before and stuff like this, but we also thought this was going to be a 6 to 8 week thing.
Right.
And
Yeah.
then we're done, just ride it out and we're good.
Right.
This might be a year for some kids that they can't show up,
Sure.
So what can we do to help out that kid that can't be here for a year?
Yeah.
So I'd say most of all, like, it feels like you're sucking, but you're not. Like, there's some day I just feel like I suck at this so bad. Like, this is just not working. But we don't know. We don't know what God's doing in someone's life. We don't know how hard they're working. We don't know, like, I've got a kid I haven't seen for 2 months. It's so easy to say, man, if we were only doing this or only I have no idea what's going on in that kid's life. I have no idea what their family's going through. All I can do is love and support them. Say, hey, miss you. We'll see you when we can. It's not about they need to be here. Jesus isn't taking attendance. Like, what can we do to help people understand that?
Yeah.
Jesus is even at home. You can't make youth group. That's fine. You can love Jesus at home. You can serve Jesus in your family. You can do something else.
Yeah.
All good.
Man, and what a gift that is to students and families during this season, and also yourself, right? Like, in recognizing that, like, the tools and the ways, the spaces we've experienced God don't fully define who God is, but it's a space that God's used and a tool that God has used and moved through, and giving ourselves the freedom to grieve what we need to grieve, to, like, recognize the suckiness of the situation, how it's impacted us, and to offer grace upon grace for others and ourselves when things just need to look different. Yeah, that's important, man. Well, Troy, thanks so much for taking the time to share. Really, I'm grateful for your partnership and for your willingness to kind of be open and honest about what in the world is happening.
Yeah.
So.
Anytime.